Assignment 9 requires that you create a meaningful questionnaire to work as primary research in your final feasibility report. Primary research, just to clarify, describes kind of a first-person account of information, where most of your classes probably require you to go to the library, look in books, and use websites. That's considered secondary research because you're one person removed from the actual data. So for this class, the questionnaire will be your primary research, but you'll also have secondary research as well. In creating your questionnaire, the actual questions you ask will be the most important part. The accuracy of the data that you get from this questionnaire will depend on the questions, the unbiased and the clearest language possible that you use. Creating unbiased questions means that you don't lead your reader to answer one way or another with the specific words you use. Remember that some words have a positive or negative connotation, so choosing a word that leans them towards a negative side, particularly if it's a yes or no answer, is going to influence them to answer one way or the other. Clear language is going to be important because you're most likely not going to have an opportunity for the individual taking the survey to ask for clarification. If they don't understand, they might answer without really understanding the question, providing you with unreliable feedback. Let's look at two questions just to kind of give you a hint about ways that questions can actually lead your reader. This first question, do you think the price of gas is too expensive, almost demands the answer yes. One, the word too expensive leads to, that's a pretty negative connotation way of looking at this. And one, that close-ended question, well, one only leads two possible choices for them to answer and doesn't leave room for any further clarification. This question, how much on average do you spend on gas per month, is not as leading as the first. It's not as much of an opinion question. It is a bit of a different question. But with a question like this, you could have many different possible answers. You could have a list of 5 average numbers, and they could circle one. You could leave it open-ended and let them pick the numbers. It's a little bit more difficult to count the data, especially if you have 50 to 100 people taking your survey. If you leave it open-ended, it's going to be more difficult to count all of that information. So there are many different types of questions you can use for the survey. You can use a simple yes or no question, have them circle the yes or no. Like I said, though, this leaves a lot of open area for people not to be, one, for them to pick an easy answer, and two, for leading questions. You can have some kind of question that has many possible answers. Like, I often do this, I never, I sometimes, I always. Or, like with the question, how much do you spend on gas per month? If you give them 5 possible numbers, they could choose the one that's closest to their answer. You can have open-ended questions, but if you're planning on having many people do the survey, if somebody writes a paragraph-long answer, it's going to be harder to make a graphic representation that's going to show the kind of data you collected from every individual. But you can also get some more specific answers, so it depends on what you're looking for in your questionnaire. Finally, you can have some kind of multiple choice, and this is similar to the second one, but remember that if you do something like multiple choice, there might be an answer, you need to put something like does not apply or none of these, or because the answers that you choose might not be the ones that they would choose. In actually creating the questionnaire, you need to determine what you actually want to learn from the survey. You can't ask a million different questions. So first look at your research, look at your study, and determine what it would be that you would want feedback from the individuals. In the same time, you need to decide who you want to take the survey. If your particular research is about UAA, do you want everybody to take it? Do you want just students to take it, or just faculty? And this will determine the answers you get. Choose the best way to reach these people. Are you going to go to the Cuddy Center and hand out surveys? Are you going to use a web survey? There's a particular web survey I'm thinking of. It's called SurveyMonkey or something. This is kind of nice, but at the same time, how are you going to make sure that people take this survey? Are you going to use an email survey? A nice thing about the handout is that you have instant feedback. They complete it right there and you take it back and you have it. The email survey, sometimes you have to take into consideration that some people just won't fill it out. So think about your audience, think about the group you want to survey, and the best way to reach them. When you create the questionnaire, make sure somewhere towards the top you let your audience know the purpose of your survey. You can even put, this is a project for an English class at UAA, this is anonymous, etc., so that you don't have to explain a million times why you're doing this, and so people feel maybe a little bit more comfortable knowing that it's a class assignment. Make sure to create questions that will get you the information that you need. I know this sounds really simple and obvious, but you can't go back later and ask for clarification or ask the same people more questions. So off the bat, decide what you want to find out, and then the best way to find out that information. Finally, keep your survey short and simple. Don't take up too much time of the people in answering the questions for your survey. They'll, one, get bored, circle any answer, leaving you with unreliable data, or they'll stop taking it if it's an email. People are more willing to do something that's easy. Make your questions and all the wording clear. Like I said before, they can't ask you for clarification. And finally, before you actually go out and use this survey on your chosen group, you might want to have a friend take it or a classmate take your survey and kind of report back to you on the questions themselves, whether they thought any of those questions were unclear. And that will help you when you actually go about and try to get to your data.